So I started upholstering this seat maybe 10 years ago, back before I had the new servo motor on the machine, and it was really difficult getting these lines all nice and straight and everything. But anyway, that was roughly 10 years ago. I got this piece done and I got this piece done. And I'd been using it in the car with just this, and pretty much nothing over here and nothing over here. I've done this recently and it looks okay. I'm still learning, so I'll probably end up redoing that eventually, but for now it'll work. I'm working on the other bolster. And it's kind of coming along. I'm working on a pattern for that. Yeah, why don't I use Newton or Park Lane? Well, one, funds. But two, what fun is it to have somebody else make it? Da, 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 da. Alright, so I had previously made this center panel, but somewhere I got my measurements off and I made it too short on one side. Or I had it turned 90 degrees. It might have worked this way, but I'm not about to go through and pick out all of these stitches. That's going to take forever. So I'm going to make one that's slightly larger. And it's comprised of my top fabric, 1/4 inch foam, and a backer. You glue the backer. It could be any kind of cloth. It really doesn't matter. It's just something to help prevent the stitching from going through. Now bear in mind, I am an amateur. I'm still learning. This is stuff that I've learned and I've done it and it works. But I'm not the definitive answer on these. Just remember that. I'm learning as I go. Anyway, you glue the fabric to your foam, and you put your foam down and you put your center stitch in for the pleat. There's guidelines and YouTubers out there that show a little bit better how to do this, but I want roughly 1 inch on my pleats. So you take about 1/4 inch. So when I went through and measured all of these, I measured them at 1 1.25 inches. And then as it pulls them in, it shrinks it just a little bit. So you get your inch. Play with it, figure out what you want. Of course, the thicker foam you have, the more allowance you're going to need to make to get your final. If I had 1/2 inch, if I wanted deep tucks, yeah, but I don't. This is fine. The other option, instead of gluing fabric to foam, is you can use headliner material like this. And this probably would have worked for me, but I didn't for 2 reasons. One, this is 1/8 inch, and this is 1/4, so I get a little more body, a little poofier. But the headliner foam is nice because it has a layer of fabric glued to it. So that step is already done. And the other reason is I'm all out of headliner foam. So I've already prepared my foam. Yeah, I'm not super worried about those wrinkles. I ran out of spray glue and I had to use my H866. So far this is pretty good. I had to start using this inside the car. It was starting to come loose. I've used the 3M77, 3M78, 3M80. I've used DAP, I've used other stuff. And this came highly recommended. It's supposed to be heat resistant. And so far I haven't had any issues with it on the places that I've fixed in my car. So I ran out of spray glue, so I had to use this, and it's okay. I didn't want to use a lot. A little can goes a long way, but you don't want to waste it. Anyway, I've got these glued together. The plan is to stitch these together. Now this particular fabric is directional. If you tug on it, it doesn't really expand much one way. But if you tug on it the other, see that? It's got a lot of expansion, and I want it side to side. So I'm going to have to do my pleats this direction. So I'm going to mark it up and move over to the sewing machine. Okay, I've got it marked out. Now I just need to sew. I'll do the center, and then these, and these, and you work your way out because it pushes everything. If you start at one end, you'll find that your 3 layers will be off because they stretch at different rates. So if you start in the middle, that locks them all in place, and you work your way out. I'm not going to do it that way every time because I don't have a lot of string, but on the short run, keep it in. You have to keep tension on the top thread to get it until it's started. Also, as I'm sewing, I'm keeping pressure outwards on the cloth. I don't really need to do a lock stitch there, but yeah, I did anyway. A small one. All right, there it is. Seat panel insert. I'll have to save that until I can use it. And now, let's make up some piping. .332 rod. Piping's pretty simple. You just cut strips of your desired vinyl, about 2 inches wide. And then you lay your cord down the middle. You can mark it if you need, but it's not necessary, because you fold it over and match it. 1.5 inches might be wide enough too. Depends on how much you want here and where you're sewing it to. Okay, I'll get it started. started, and then it just kind of feeds itself. I put a little bit of pressure this way against the rod. Make sure my sides are lined up here. Away we go. Just stop and adjust as you need. Yeah, see, and I'm keeping it just slightly to the right, and it makes the presser foot walk into the edge of the cord. It gets it nice and tight. Check my bobbin after this stitch. It should be fine, but there's nothing worse than running out of bobbin thread in the middle of a stitch in vinyl. Cloth, it's not that big a deal. But vinyl, you have to go back and match hole for hole, deal with the unsightly holes if you made a mistake. Or cut a piece. That's why I do that. Oh, hell. There's a bunch of right there. See that? Well, I guess I'll come back to here and restart it. I need to fix that, so. Well, that would explain it. I've got all this excess back here I forgot to trim back, and I folded over it. I folded it over, and I went right through it. I need to trim it back to here, and I had way too much thickness. Okay, so far there's the passenger seat with the piping on it, and the driver's seat that I've been using for quite a few years now, actually. Needs a little bit of cleaning, but that's a different story. Anyway, there we go. And I've got it marked right here where the top of the side starts. And I just start sewing here with it face down. So when it gets done, of course, it'll curl over and you can see it. So I just follow that line, keeping it right along here, and it'll shape it to that contour that I need. Well, shoot, I did all of that without recording. So I got this one sewed in. I guess I'll record the other side. Anyway, let's turn it inside out and see what it looks like. There we go, look at that. Let's try this again. Got it all set up, marked where I need. I I just have to follow this curve, but I have to put it in this straight line. And this part is usually easier if you just kind of do it manually with the wheel. It's a little easier to control. I'm sure there's some pros out there that could just zip this right around, but even the ones that I've watched on YouTube that are really good walk it around manually on tight curves. So in a straight line and a round line together. It's like a square peg in a round hole. I'm sitting here talking to myself. Again, you missed out on all the fun. Wasn't recording. Anyway, I've got them there, turn it inside out. Got all the shape that I want. Slight hourglass here, because it's not a perfect straight line. Well, there we go. The old new one and the new one. I've got to sew this tab on yet. That just stretches around the back and hooks into the back of the seat. But there they are. Now I need to get some more vinyl to finish the rest of the seats. All right, the old seat and the new cover. Naturally, it'll fit better, but you get the idea. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Driveway Shop. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.